Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of RazeBells Conversations, where I talk to coaches, athletes to try to gain some information on where to start, see what we can learn, uh, unconventional styles of strength training, mobility, and things like that. My guest today is Kelly Manzone. Uh, our conversation starts at 9 a.m. So we got about a few minutes. We got a few minutes before she probably hops on here. Um, so pretty much the things I'm going to try to find out for us today is she's big into unconventional styles of training, Bulgarian bags, maces, Indian clubs, big clubs. I'm not sure what they call them, so we'll find that out. And how these things can help us with our mobility and our strength training when it comes to kettlebells. Just got a text from Kelly. Her computer is updating, so she will be on shortly. We are live on YouTube, so if there's anybody watching and you have questions for Kelly, just put them in the chat. I have the chat box open so I can see questions as they roll in.
Hi.
Well, hello. Good morning.
Of course my computer's like needs to update. I'm like, oh, Maggie, come here. I'm gonna get my dog a treat because whenever I record a podcast, she thinks that
She's
she's
got to
got
be all over the place.
yeah. She's like, I want in. How are you this
Yes,
morning?
I'm doing very well. My cat does the same thing. He climbs on the bells, and uh, I chatted with Matt. I chatted with Master Denning last week, and my cat
Oh
jumped
my,
up on my lap, and he wanted to be on my lap. So,
I've got to check out that podcast. Is it up and out already?
well, it is up on the YouTube channel. Because so for your information, we are already live on YouTube. I'm
Oh,
also
right
I
now.
wanted to get yeah, yeah. I went ahead and went live on YouTube. So they go automatically up to YouTube. However, I am going to be like I'm backlogging all of
Yep.
these talks, and I'm going to start putting them out on Spotify. I haven't quite developed the Spotify thing yet. I downloaded the app and
Hmm.
made a login and all that stuff for Spotify for creators, but my whole intention with this wasn't really a podcast. It was just, last
Conversation.
year when I was, yeah, last year when I was conversating and interviewing people for the All American, uh, you know, I realized like this is actually kind of fun. I like it. So I wanted to do it again this year, and it kind of developed into more than just the athletes of the All American. Now I'm talking,
Yep.
I'm reaching out to pretty much anybody. Unconventional athletes,
Thanks for
kettlebell
having me
coaches.
on.
Yeah, of course. Well, you and I talked in Boston for a little while, a very
Yes.
brief conversation, like during the competition. And so I thought of you because I would like to really dig deeper into a conversation with you about your life story, your
Sure.
background, and this this unconventional style that you have such a passion for. I see all the clubs and
Yeah, this is
maces and
my
things
living.
behind you. That's your living room.
Yes,
So,
we live in a very small condo, my husband, son, and
mhm.
and I have a very supportive spouse. My husband deals with all my crazy. So actually, that's our kitchen, and all my sport competition bells and sandbags and stuff are on a big rack in the kitchen, as where they belong.
You know, that kind of reminds me, it's the exact opposite, or it's the exact same. However, like for like a bike guy, right?
Mhm.
Always having bike parts in the house, bringing the bike in to work on it, and your wife is just so understanding and stuff like that, right?
Now, is this your gym space attached to your house here?
Yes, and I was
That's
gonna say
awesome.
that yeah. So when I bought this house, this room was just it was just it had tile on the floor, the roof leaked, the floor leaked from the bottom. So we had to tear out the whole concrete pad, put a whole new concrete pad in, put a French drain in. I had to put a
Oh my.
I had to do a new roof and all that good stuff to stop the leaking. And then so now it is what it is now.
The perfect like kettlebell training haven. And I love
Oh my
shout
God,
out
it is.
Nintendo in the background, right? It's Nintendo, of course, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That brings me back to endless hours of playing with my brother, and then of course pulling it out, blowing on it, put it back in.
Yep,
Those
yep.
days.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember those days like it was yesterday. So
We
if you don't mind,
yeah,
can I record this episode? We
yeah,
are
of
already
course.
live on
Yep.
YouTube, so everything we did just talk about will be on there. Um,
Come here.
and then this way I have it and I can just upload it to Spotify when the time
Sounds
comes.
great.
I'm not entirely sure if, too many people are going to be hopping on the chat. I haven't been very diligent in, uh, you know, promoting these episodes on Instagram. I, I'm creating thumbnails and things like that, but I just haven't been very diligent with saying, hey, Saturday at such and such time, I'm going to be talking with Kelly. Uh, but if anybody hops on YouTube and they see that we're live and they want to, throw in a question, they're more than welcome. And if that comes up, I'll ask. We did have that a couple times with when I spoke to Eddie Tarrant.
Oh, nice. So I have to check out some of these episodes. I've been so far behind on podcasts. Like
Hmm.
recently, I went down like the podcast rabbit hole for a while, and then life got super
Hmm.
busy. And I like to listen to them when I'm walking or on the bike. So I got to
Yeah.
catch up. I really want to listen to the Chris Denning one. He's so sweet. I got to finally meet him in person after
Oh,
all
really?
these years last month when I was in Canada. He's
Oh,
fantastic.
that's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, that guy is just a wealth of knowledge.
He is,
Uh,
and he is very skilled with his techniques, especially with
he
the Persian mill.
Yes, when you just commented on one of his posts, his timing is so mesmerizing, and it really is. Like you could just look at it for
Go into
days.
a trance. It's
Hmm.
hypnotic. It's really fascinating, especially for how heavy the club is to navigate and balance it with that timing.
Hmm. Yeah, his respect for tradition and his knowledge for, history is
Mhm.
amazing to me, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to him. And uh, I have very little knowledge of Indian clubs, maces, and things like that, but I've done like I think 4 sessions with him, and
Yep.
just every time he's building on the technique, and he's just showing me all kinds of new stuff, and that timing.
I told him I was like I could listen to him talk for hours. I love his accent.
Yes, absolutely. With the English accent, everybody's a mate, a chap,
Yeah, but
things
he
like that.
immediately like I don't know. I instantly like when he talks, I'm like I need to pay attention.
Yeah, he
So
sounds like a professor. Yeah.
yeah, he's a good coach too. And he does,
Yes, he is.
dabbles in sport like I do.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily do it at a high level by any means, but
Hmm.
it's great having him in my friend circle. He's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of, uh, not doing kettlebell sport at a high level, I mean, but at the end of the day, we're all just doing this for life, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because like I was thinking about competing again, but I have this issue with like my heart rate gets so high when I train. And during my
Hmm.
like was it second to last competition, Lorna, she was living in town, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not on
Mm-hmm.
the island here anymore. There's like another kettlebell person here. So I would go and train with her, and she's like, man, your heart rate is really high. I'm like, I know. And I ended up having now that I'm middle-aged, I guess, I'm at 46,
Mm-hmm.
but like things started to change for me at 43, and I developed exercise-induced asthma. And I was finding that after my long kettlebell sports sets, I was getting an asthma attack, but I didn't know what it was at first. And
Mm-hmm.
Jeff was like, and Lorna were both like, man, you have a really high heart rate. And no matter how my conditioning is, how fit I am, I have when I do long cycle, which is my favorite lift, I get into the
Mm-hmm.
190s and I sustain it. And
Wow.
so they were like, I don't know, maybe I should like go get like a heart exam. So I went to the
Yeah.
cardiologist just to make sure everything's okay because I'm always an anomaly when I'm training with people. And I used to be able to manage that higher heart rate easier. And now what
Mm-hmm.
happens is I have no problem doing it. I don't feel exhausted. I could talk, but it's my nervous system a few minutes
Mm-hmm.
after I put the bells down that I feel like I can't describe it. It's like I'm discombobulated. So now I'm not only dealing with like exercise induced asthma and at the last competition, the one that you and I were at together, I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get through the 10-minute set. So I didn't even pace and took my inhaler and I just went slow as sin and I didn't care
Mm-hmm.
about the rep count, put my bells down, and I still had an asthma attack a couple minutes later. So like
Wow.
I don't know if you noticed, like I was like talking to Ian from Kettlebell Collective, and all of a sudden I went in
Mm-hmm.
the corner and just started having my asthma attack. So I went to the allergist after, and I was like, "Hey, this is my asthma and allergy doctor. This is what happened." And it turns out that I need a different inhaler because I get bronchial constriction. So not
Mm-hmm.
only do I need albuterol, I need an anti-inflammatory. So I'm kind of
Oh
playing
wow.
with that. But I don't like I mean I enjoy the other lifts, but I personally I'm drawn to long cycle, but it just
Mm-hmm.
accelerates my heart rate and I've never been a good endurance person ever.
Yeah.
I can move your
Well, I
couch.
mean,
Like I pick a
when it
thing
comes
up, put 'em down.
when it comes to all the lifts, I mean, long
Yeah.
cycle's the one, right? I mean, it just covers all your bases.
Hmm.
Uh, that's incredible that you're finding a balance with these medical conditions, but you're still finding time to train.
Well, the doctor said my heart is perfect. Like my VO2 max is above normal for my age group. I just have like genetics plays a massive role in your heart rate max. And I
Hmm.
just happen to have my resting heart rate is 50. So he's like, you're fine. Go by what your resting heart rate is and how many
Hmm.
beats per minute you could recover 1 minute after strenuous exercise. So I could sometimes recover 30 to 50 beats in a minute, being at 190 and going all the way down. So that he's like, just worry about that. But it's what's happening
Hmm.
to my nervous system after being at such an elevated heart rate. Because when I monitor it, one time I was working with Jeff, and I was going for longer sets in that minimal break period in between before going for another long set. And I was at 198 for most of my training, which is
Wow.
ridiculous. And I'm 46 years old, and I'm like, I don't want my heart
Hmm.
to explode. So I just feel like I don't want to, even though I feel healthy and I'm fine, I'm just getting like this really weird sensation after having my heart elevated for that long. And then
Right.
I do a ton of other training. Like I work at a
Hmm.
gym 6 days a week. I'm constantly on my rower, the spinning bike, I'm doing barbell, kettlebell, you name it.
Hmm.
And it's just that continuous repetitive motion of long cycle because the cardiologist said it's your leg drive, so your legs pump the blood to the heart and you're doing
Hmm.
repetitive leg drive. And it's like I would love to test myself at a higher weight bell rather than just always competing with 12s, but I just can't put my body through that strain. So I still
Mm.
love kettlebell sport and want to do it again. I'm just going to have to do it for the joy of doing it and just listen to my
Right.
body, you know?
Hmm. Does these other forms of exercise get your heart rate that high, and do you
I get
sustain the
my
heart
heart
rate?
rate goes pretty high quickly.
Hmm.
So I wear a heart rate monitor fairly often. Now, granted, I was not wearing any heart rate monitor during my first 6 kettlebell sport competitions. So
Hmm.
I don't know what was happening with my heart then, and I felt fine, but I also wasn't in perimenopause then. So it's very interesting, like being an athlete your whole life and being capable of doing all these things, and all of a sudden you go through a natural change in your life or the start of it, and you start to see how estrogen affects everything connected to what you do. And as an athlete, you
Hmm.
could all of a sudden really start to have credible changes of, developing exercise-induced asthma out of nowhere. Never had an asthma attack in my life. Ocular
Right.
migraines out of nowhere. Never had a migraine in my life. And, also the cardiologist said, I had COVID twice, and there could have been like they're seeing anomalies in athletes, you know?
Hmm.
So it could be something changed during the pandemic when I got sick. I'm not sure. It's
Yeah.
just a number of factors, and I get frustrated sometimes with myself because I wish I could train and push myself the way that so many of my friends in the kettlebell community can when it comes to
Hmm.
sport. But I know that I can't. I just don't feel
Right.
good after. I mean, I could do it, but at what cost?
Right.
Of feeling like
Right.
shit? No. So it's like I'd rather just kind of go slow and just try to make the 10-minute set.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it.
No. But I
Health is foremost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I now that I have the correct inhaler, where like, for that first competition where you were with me at Jeff's place, that was the first time competing with asthma, and I'd only had been diagnosed for like I think 6 or 8 months. So
Hmm.
it's still kind of finding out like, and I only get asthma attacks after the long kettlebell sport sets, not in any other
Right.
fitness that I'm doing. So it's that
Really?
repetition. And it's also, I think, contributed to like the breathing of long cycle. So you're doing a
Hmm.
lot of mouth breathing, and
Hmm.
it's quite continuous. So
Hmm.
I try to work on my breathing techniques more. I even bought one of those like lung trainers, that could strengthen your lungs so you
Oh
breathe.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have
You
one.
have one?
Oh yeah, I love it. I do it
Yeah.
almost every day.
Isn't
It's
that
the
amazing?
O2 trainer.
Yes, I have one.
This
Yeah.
is awesome.
It
Yeah.
is awesome. So I thought like that maybe that would make a difference, but it never drove my heart rate down, and it didn't prevent the
Hmm.
asthma attack. So, I'm
Right.
just learning and adjusting.
Hmm. Yeah, wow. A friend of mine, his name's Ross Bell,
Hmm.
and he was there in Boston as well. He's the Viking guy. He's the chalk guy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah, yes. Okay.
Hmm. So I was talking with him, and he's like, "Dude, my heart rate just skyrockets at the beginning of a set, and I just sustain a
That's me.
190 to 195 heart rate throughout the entire set." And I'm like,
Same.
"That's insane." Yeah.
But how old is he? Did you know by any chance?
Mm, I think he's slightly older than me, so maybe 40.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like I've always had this, but I think now that I'm in my mid 40s, even though I'm not impacted by it during it, it does affect me
Hmm.
now after the fact. Like that's what
Hmm.
it gets, I think, annoying is I'm like, I thought to myself, like, well, if I condition better and I'm doing like I was doing the Norwegian method and doing that
Hmm.
4x4 and improving, like, will it help me not have that spike? And I will spike with long cycle 1 or 2 minutes into a set and
Hmm.
sustain 190 to 198 for 8 to 10 minutes, which is
Jeez.
insane.
Yeah,
So it's
that's kind of
like
crazy.
he has that also, but maybe
Yes,
he's
but
having like
he's
the effect
never,
after.
yeah, he's never mentioned having any kind of side effects after the set.
Mhm.
So maybe, there's a difference in the nervous system like you were talking about.
It's definitely feels like central nervous system overload. Like I'm not vomiting, I'm not puking, I don't
Hmm.
feel like I don't never
Oh,
feel
what's the matter,
like
buddy? I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
yeah, no worries. Oh, Maggie, Maggie, come here. Maggie. Hey, Maggie, come here. It's just a bird outside. I know. Maggie, come here. Maggie, please. Okay, come here. Maggie, come here.
I'm sorry about that.
Don't apologize. Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He bumped his knee. He was running around playing with the dog.
Oh,
Yeah,
poor
he's
little
fine.
guy. Oh.
Yeah. Mama went out to get donuts, so.
For dad duty and podcasting at the same time.
Mm,
Just gonna grab,
mm-hmm.
my dog was going on a little barking rampage for a second there. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, so what I was saying is like I don't feel nauseous or anything like that. It just feels like this crash. I can't put like I just
Mm-hmm.
feel discombobulated for a few minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
and also I'm sure there's like a little bit of an adjustment to having the exercise-induced asthma. I'm not sure because I don't push long sets very often, as you know, like you do
Right.
your proper training and then you peak and then you start to
Kind of taper off. Yeah.
yeah, taper off. So I don't know, but I'm thinking that I might do something soon.
Mm-hmm.
What's competition are you doing next?
So
I
probably this Friday, I'm going to do a virtual
oh no.
for the IKFF Worlds, and then I think the next in person. Well, we got Jeff's New England Kettlebell Classic in April. It's on
That
April
one I
11th.
might be doing in
We're
April.
we're yeah, we're definitely going up there. But I think there's there's a couple that we're I'm thinking about trying to go down to Georgia in
I saw
December for
that. Yeah,
Jingle Bells. I'd really like to meet Jen Casey and get to know her and the team a little bit.
yep.
Yeah, so there's a couple options. We got some, the West Coast competitions, which is, Dennis's World Championships in February,
Okay,
but
where do you
also
live?
I'm in Maryland.
Maryland. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got
so I'm like, uh, I live like maybe 10 minutes outside of Baltimore.
it. Mhm.
And then, I'm right in this DMV, DC area. Yeah. So,
That's awesome. I didn't
so
realize that.
yeah, thinking about maybe trying to go out west again because we went out to Oakland for in 2024. So
Yep.
maybe going out there, but also like I've been trying to get out to K2 for Coach Seiko's K2
That would be
kettlebell.
amazing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Buffy's really pushing me to go out there. So that would be
Gotta
cool.
do it. You
Yeah.
should do it.
I'm gonna
If
try,
I'm
yeah.
April, I'll do the if I have to check. So we're planning on going to Spain as a family trip, and it's in
Oh,
April.
nice.
Yeah, and then um Danny of Original Strength and I are bringing the Women's Movement Collaborative back. This is
Hmm.
like a weekend workshop where you have various like speakers. So we're working on that and we're looking to do it in April also. But
Oh, that's awesome.
I definitely want to do I know I might actually try to do snatch maybe and see if that's a way for me to compete, but I really
Hmm.
gravitate to the long cycle, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
You, uh, I haven't done a whole lot of long cycle training. Dennis had me on, so Dennis is my coach, and he had me on a small, brief long cycle thing, and I got up to a 5 minute set, and then I kind of took a little hiatus because of some family stuff, and then now I'm back on biathlon. But I
That
would to
fun
try
that
to
you did was
compare.
incredible though. Watching that live, you guys up there like crushing what was it called again where you did like
That
five
was
minutes of each
that was the pentathlon.
yes. That was
Yeah.
fucking awesome to watch.
Yeah, that's we love that
You
pentathlon stuff.
crushed it.
Oh, thank you. I didn't
That was
do as
I'm glad
quite
that I
quite as
got to
well as I
see.
wanted to, but my next showing will be better.
Are you going to do it again at Jeff's place?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep,
Okay.
that's the plan.
All right. If I'm in like in the area, I'm coming to compete and to watch you do that again because that was phenomenal.
Nice.
Who
Yeah,
was the
hopefully we can
that
get.
was the next to you? I can't remember. Because you had like there was like five people competing,
Yeah,
right?
so I had Kevin right to my left, Kevin
Yes.
DeLong, which
Yep.
he's, the current IKMF world champion for the 75 to 85 class. And then right next to me was my teammate Rudy, and then his son,
That's
little
right.
Rudy.
They were adorable. That was
Yes,
cool.
yes.
The father and son up there was priceless. That was cool.
Yeah, that's quite awesome. And little Rudy now is a Marine.
No way. Thank you for your
Yeah,
service. That's
Yeah,
insane.
he left for the Marines like 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh,
And
well,
he
special
he
young
made it
man.
through boot camp, and then now he's on to his like job training.
Yep.
So
Oh, his
yeah,
dad must be proud. That was cool to
oh,
see.
super proud. Yeah, super proud. Yeah, he's doing really well.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we're all planning on coming back up April, so that'd be
All
fun.
right. Very
And
cool.
old Mikey Tupood is he's doing. If you watch the All American Kettlebell Open live, the pentathlon set, Mikey Tupood, he did a phenomenal job, and he's just climbing in weights like they're nothing.
I remember one time being at the Arnold Classic in Ohio and watching a
Mhm.
gentleman, I think he was from Poland, but I can't quite recall. He long cycled his own body weight for 10 minutes.
Wow.
Was like I'd never seen anything like that. So he had 232s and he was this tiny guy and he was
Mm.
just dying and like his coach would be like, go, and he would do a rep and everybody like, oh, and it kept
Oh
going for
God.
10 minutes. And I was like, he held his own body weight for 10 minutes and he was
Yeah.
grinding out those last minutes. Like you could see the pain. And then a coach would be like, go, and he would do a rep and everybody was like, all right. I think that was the most impressive thing
It's
I've seen.
it's incredibly energetic, expect especially like a live event, and you're
Yes.
there and you're just watching these guys like, well, you say like grind through it, and there are some people that really grind through these exercises.
Mhm.
But then if you watch someone so sleek like a Lorna Kleidman or
Oh,
a
she's
Carissa
incredible.
Siverot
Yes.
or Kim Fox when she jerks double 24s for 90 reps and it doesn't look like it phased her the entire time. Like,
It's amazing. Like her and Lorna are a massive inspiration for me, and
mm-hmm,
especially getting to
same.
know Lorna when, she moved back somewhere in New York, but when she was in town and we were able to meet up often and we still communicate, she's just phenomenal. She
Yeah,
really
I'm
is.
talking to her tomorrow.
Oh, you are? Awesome.
Hmm.
Oh man, I'm gonna be so pumped to listen to these podcasts. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
so I mean, Lorna just PR'd
I
her
know.
24 kg snatch. I think she did 147 reps. I think so. And when she put the bell down, I have this picture. Our photographer got her like in action. She like stood at the edge of the platform and she pointed down, and then she grabbed the PR bell and she goes wow wow wow, right, and she's just so in the zone, just
That is the
watching
best.
that lady do her thing, man.
So there was one day when I was training with her, and obviously, she only occasionally does long cycle. And she
Hmm.
was like mainly focusing, I forget where she was going. Maybe it was Hungary, but I can't remember where she was competing next. And she's like, she had to do a long cycle set. So she's like, yeah, could you just count my reps for me? I'm like, sure. She's like, I don't train this often. And she casually rips out 110 reps like nothing. And
Jeez.
I'm like, my goodness, Lorna, that's
Oh
inspiring.
yeah.
Like it was awesome to just, she's a
Yeah,
phenomenal athlete and her dedication and her last rep always looks like the first rep.
exactly. Yep. That's what I was gonna say. Like
Laura Keys is
these
like that too. Her last rep always looks like the first rep.
who's that?
Laura Keys, and she's in Pennsylvania.
I'm
She's
not sure I've
done a
ever
number. You would recognize her if you saw her. She
maybe.
does a number. I think she's in Pennsylvania. She's done a number of competitions. And she's awesome to watch live because it's just that
Hmm.
last rep looks just like the first one, and she's cool and collected the whole time. And
It's
I'm there
so
on
crazy
stage
that these guys
at
can do
five.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
I love
Mhm.
watching, and especially in person. And that's one of the main reasons like we get a lot of people who ask us if we will accept virtual submissions for the All-American. And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, we could, but I mean, but it's just you're losing out on the experience of the live, you know,
You definitely get
show.
energy from people in the room. And I know for myself, and I'm sure, and maybe you do it too. And again, I only casually compete, but like when I get on stage, I just like days out. I don't know who's in front of
Hmm.
me. I'm not even paying
Right.
it. I just kind of find a target, and then it's like I have
Hmm.
like tunnel vision for the 10 minutes.
I
It's
do
just
too. Yeah.
bizarre. But I hear the people and I'm like, go, okay, then go. But I don't
Yep.
see any in front of me. It's weird how your
Yeah.
body does.
It's like, for instance, like me, I just find a little spot and I just try to keep my eyes on that. Because if
Yeah.
I'm like, my eyes are like going all over the place, then I'm gonna lose focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I remember like when I so there was a few years for the Arnold Classic. Yuri used to be my coworker here in Connecticut, and so he had American Kettlebell Alliance, and he would set up down in Ohio, and we would drive down together, and I would help set up everything. And there was one year
Mhm.
when they did the main Rogue stage with Kettlebell Sport. Doug was a part of it. I forget who else. Um, and we were in the back with like all the strong men before they competed, and then Valerie and I went on and did mace, and all of a sudden I'm like looking up and your face is on all the screens while you're trying to
Oh
compete, and I'm
wow.
like, oh, you can't look at it. You just have to keep. I was
Yeah,
like
I bet that's
horrified.
wild.
Like you can't see yourself on a big screen. It just throws you off.
Hmm.
That was a fun competition watching the guys do some like sport events on the Rogue stage was
Yeah,
cool.
I've heard about the the Arnold Classic and the kettlebell sport competitions that were held there. I've never actually been to one because I think that's just they stopped like right as I was getting into the sport. So
Yeah, I don't even know when the last one was because Yuri moved to Florida, I think in 2020. And
I
I'm
think
not
that
sure.
was that
Yeah,
was
was that
it, I
the last
think.
time they did? Maybe. I can't remember.
I'm not sure. I've heard like 2019, 2020 was
Yeah, it must have
right
been
around
then.
the end. Yeah.
Yep. But it was fun. It was definitely
Yeah,
fun.
I bet. So Kelly,
Mm,
let's dig into your history, your background. When what got you into where'd your passion develop for this unconventional style of training?
sure. Well, so in Connecticut, I became a personal trainer 23 years ago.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, I started off at like the local New York Sports Club in Westport, and I ended up leaving when I got pregnant with my son to become an independent contractor. So I've been an independent contractor for the last almost 16 years.
Mhm.
And when I became a trainer in 2000 and I think it was what, three? Or no, two, yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't do math right now, but 23 years. My brain just, it's Saturday, it's, whatever. Um, I was always kind of a big history buff. I love history and
Hmm.
I love physical culture from all around the world. And I didn't understand the concept of, when you were first starting out in personal training, especially if it's corporate. And at the time they had like the little Nautilus circle of machines. I'm like, why are we sitting people down on a machine and think one, two, three, like I was like, this
Yeah.
is ugh. And I got really interested in kettlebells and I didn't know much about them.
Mhm.
And at that time, there was Punch Kettlebell Gym in Norwalk, Connecticut, which was the only one that I really knew of because I was interested in learning more about them. And so I called and they're like, unfortunately, we don't let personal trainers just come in here and train. But if you're
Hmm.
interested in learning kettlebells, Anthony DeLugio of Art of Strength has a kettlebell certification. So that was my first introduction
Hmm.
into kettlebells. And once I dove down the kettlebell rabbit hole and really I got fascinated by the dexterity and communication with the palm of your hand and how you can make
Hmm.
heavy feel light. You know how that goes, like how when the first time
Hmm.
you do a snatch and it's like seamless, or you do a heavy swing and it's seamless, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I wanted to know more about other historical training tools. So
Hmm.
the kettlebell led me down the road of exploring various circular training tools because I feel like they really complement one another and then complement
Hmm.
modern methods. It's funny because like even though I work in a gym 6 days a week, I don't film at the gym. I primarily film at my home because I don't want to disrupt my coworkers or my coworkers' clients. And I just
Hmm.
don't like with our facility is like a small private gym and it's not about my workout, it's about everybody else's. So
Right.
people will come on my page and they see what I'm doing at my home and they'll be like, just lift the barbell and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I do that.
Right.
But there's a benefit I feel like these tools have made me more resilient. Um,
Hmm.
and have kind of filled in the gaps. Like I feel more mobile, more stable, more strong. And my grip strength has improved drastically over the years because of various clubs, which improved my ability to excel with higher volume kettlebell work or have a
Hmm.
better lockout overhead. For my deadlift, I could pull more, because my grip is stronger. So it's just there's just a relationship to blending, I think, midline and cross-body patterns, asynchronous patterns to more linear movements. So
Right.
I really like exploring the gray areas in fitness and feel like unfortunately, I think with the medium of social media, sometimes people tend to pin one style against another or
Hmm.
one method against another or one tool. But there's a lot of amazingness to explore.
Right.
And, shit, we're only here once. Enjoy. If something interests you, dive in and do it. And
Exactly.
sometimes, as you could see, the collection grows because
Hmm.
it also becomes a way of like managing life stress. You know how it goes because you train too. So it's like you
Hmm.
find what you love, makes you a better person. You
Right.
enjoy.
Chris Denning said last week, I don't care if you are snatching a kettlebell hardstyle or sport. Shit, I'm just happy you're moving.
Totally. Yes. And I like that I've always kind of said that I'm a bit of a hybrid because I like
Hmm.
that they are two different disciplines with the same tool. And I'm
Exactly.
definitely somebody that is an endurance athlete. I'm just not. Like I try to be. I don't think
Hmm.
my body is built that way, but I explore it. And it's very
Hmm.
hard for me to get into like I would say like well, I mean, no, it's hard for everybody, but when you get to that 6 and 8 minute set and beyond, that is like I'm digging deep. And
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
that all sport people are, but I feel like some are naturally just really good endurance athletes, and I'm just
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah. We say we're going to that dark place today.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I find myself coming back to do it again just because
Hmm.
I like getting out of my comfort zone and I like challenging myself. And I've always been, though I love team sports, I really like individual sports because I don't really give a shit if I win or not. I just really like the
Hmm.
process. And I learn a lot about myself during the process. And I just like the blend of I love hardstyle, that's my base. But I
Hmm.
also, and I'm in awe of all the sport athletes because having done it myself, and I know how challenging it is for me, it's incredible the feats that I witness at a competition. Kudos.
Absolutely.
And I
Oh,
think
yes.
hardstyle people that really critique and put sport down, if they attend a live event
Hmm.
or if they have a friend who, is training for a sport competition, just watch it, observe their training.
Hmm.
It's phenomenal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of the OG kettlebell coaches today, like for instance, Steve Cotter, rest in
yeah,
peace.
rest in peace.
Uh, his journey started with Pavel,
Mhm.
but then when his eyes were opened and he saw sport and he's like, wait a second, there's some sort of disconnect here. As far as like the efficiency, with the hard style stuff, you're not really using the efficiency like you're taking this 68-kilo guy lifting 232 bells for 10 minutes and he's knocking out so many reps. It's there's something going on here. So he kind of, I wouldn't say the originator because talking to Chris, he mentioned another name. I think it was Dave, but they were also in that circle
And
and they
Anthony
found
was
out
in
about
the circle
sport.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, so they all kind of like developed this hybrid style of kettlebell lifting, you know?
And I
And I
think
think that's fascinating.
I love it. I think it's fascinating. And I also think it's fascinating now that like you know, over the past decade of doing a lot of mace in clubs and people in the community sharing, there's a lot more interest now from people to explore And
Mm-hmm.
people that have kettlebell experience tend to be able to pick up various club swinging and mace swinging fairly quickly because the
Mm-hmm.
kettlebell is a great base to kind of have prior to going into a circular training tool. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of that is based on knowing when to create tension, when to release,
Mm-hmm.
and when to relax grip. It's just fascinating. They correlate quite a bit.
They do. And I would love to dig into that a little bit. So you started with kettlebells, and
Yes.
then when did you like discover clubs and maces and when's your passion for that kind of develop?
So I got introduced to Indian clubs and balavas, which is a short steel mace in 2008, which was a part of Art of Strength through Anthony DeLugio. And then I got pregnant in 2009 and then had my son in January of the following year. And I you know, went through the motherhood process. And
Mm-hmm.
shortly after that, I got very sick with infectious colitis from severe food poisoning, and it was
Oh
caused by
wow.
it was a year that Listeria and Salmonella were in the news for
Mm.
contaminated spinach and cantaloupe. The salad that I actually ate on that Monday had cantaloupe and spinach in it, so it's hard to say which one it
Mm-mm-mm.
was. But that was on a Monday. By Saturday, I was hospitalized for the first time. And then I was on antibiotics for 6 months, which completely decimated my system. And so I was sick with
Mm-hmm.
colitis for 3 years. And I was slowly rebuilding my strength because I got down to a size zero. It was horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that I started to rebuild my strength was to add in some club swinging. And then I decided, I was like, wow, okay, I really feel like this is helping me to rebuild my health again so that I could pick up my kettlebells and resume the strength that I had previously. So I was still doing, I guess you could say, traditional strength training in the gym, but at
Mm-hmm.
home, because I was so sick, I would just start to ease into simple patterns. And then I went down the rabbit hole, and especially like Paul Volkavinsky has been my main mentor with circular training tools over the past decade. He's in Australia. And
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of like the goat of various circular training tools because he not only is well versed in Indian clubs and mace, he's also trained in Iran in the Zirconieh, and he's very well versed in Persian mill. So he
Mm-hmm.
was, monumental in me kind of exploring these tools a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have found that it was I think also the therapeutic benefits of club swinging, which is like if you haven't done it before, then it brings you into like a flow state. All of us have
Mm-hmm.
kind of had that flow state of mind in our training, or whether it's a runner's high or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Circular training tools can provide that for you. And because I was so sick for so long, the kettlebell and the clubs just kind of brought me back to feeling good again.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple differences in the nomenclature that you just said. So Indian clubs, Persian mills, maces. Sitting behind you are the larger, are they Persian mills?
Yeah, so these right here, I just got while I was in Canada from Mohammed.
Oh wow.
These are from Iran. So this is a Persian mill. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have the steel club, and I've got various steel clubs, which are, the more modern version of two-hand and single arm club work. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I've got oh, these are awesome. These came from Hungary, these
Oh
gorgeous
wow.
Indian
They
clubs.
are
Yeah.
beautiful.
And then I also have an Indian mudguard, which is back over here. And then these
Mm-hmm.
very large clubs that you could see that are nearly as tall as I am, that's an Indian
Mm-hmm.
Jory that
Oh wow.
Tom Village and I live near each other. So he's in Trumbull, I'm in Fairfield. And we
Mm-hmm.
found a wood turner in Connecticut, a furniture maker. And we used my mentor Paul's template that he did for Indian Jory, and we each had a pair made. So
Oh nice.
yeah, there's all different styles of clubs, and I think of like, what's fascinating is and I think that's probably why I like the blend of both styles of kettlebells is
Mm-hmm.
I love the feel of a hardstyle bell. I also like the feel of a competition bell. And
Hmm.
so it's kind of like each one of these clubs, even though there's similarities, they feel different. And sometimes the techniques are different too, even though
Hmm.
some of that has like an overlap. So I guess I'm just kind of a nerd for stuff like this. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, let's say a someone listening to this, they're a kettlebell guy or gal, and okay, I'm hearing these things have great benefits for mobility and can add to the strength. Where would they start? What would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend probably starting first with investing in a pair of 1 or 2 pound polyurethane or wood Indian clubs.
Hmm.
Fairly low cost, and you could easily access a lot of decent educational material for free online, or there's a number of excellent people to learn from. And it's kind of like building a foundation first, and then you could either progress to a larger club with more weight or different dimensions, and then maybe even progress to a mace.
Hmm.
I have like the Okada over here. I got like, unfortunately, I own like 38 maces. But of a longer lever, and a gata has a different feel than a steel mace. Like
Hmm.
I've got a few bamboo in the back over here. That one right here is 2 inch
Nice.
thick hollow bamboo. So it's hollow in the middle. And that is a
Hmm.
very unique feeling because you have to really stabilize the
Hmm.
weight. The weight is all concentrated at the end of the lever.
Hmm.
But Indian clubs, you start to introduce midline crossing patterns
Hmm.
safely. You start to do cross-body patterns safely, asynchronous patterns. You start introducing, if you're doing parallels, for example, a transverse
Hmm.
turn through the shoulders, which if you then take your two hands moving individually in a transverse turn with Indian clubs, you now have, if you're swinging a mace, both hands on one lever, but you're still doing that transverse turn
Oh, I
through
see.
the shoulders. So it's a way to kind of map out and build a foundation to then kind of grow roots and branch off from. And it's like I said, it's lower cost. It doesn't, Indian clubs don't take up a lot of space.
Mm. Yeah, I have.
Nowadays, what's that?
I was just gonna say, when I first started working with Chris, he had me go to Body Mind Fit, and I
Yes,
bought my
Peter.
first pair.
Peter
Yes.
recently passed on, and he's an
Rest
amazing
in peace.
person. You rest in peace. And his daughter Josie has taken over her father's business. She's incredible. So shout out to Body Mind Fit. But yeah,
Yes.
but that's like those are a great starter pair. And
Hmm.
because, like, especially when you're doing the high volume training, whether, you do multiple disciplines in sports sometimes, that's a shit ton of high volume overhead training. So you
Hmm.
could add in easily some sagittal swings to give your T-spine some love.
Hmm.
You could use the Indian clubs as a warm up or, like a recovery day. And then you could
Hmm.
also, not only use them for those purposes, you could start to learn sequences and get a little bit more artistic with it if you choose to do so. So it
Hmm.
offers, a couple of different pathways with one tool, and it'll complement, your other training. And I know for myself that like when I get uh, the volume of jerks in my training. So if I'm jerking the 16s and the 20s and I kind of get stiff through your upper back,
Hmm.
that same
Hmm.
left swinging does the
Yes.
trick.
I need to do it more. For a little while there, I was using them as a warm up. I was
Yeah.
heart shapes and this these different moves that Chris has been
Yeah, you
teaching.
get that nice extension coming out,
Yes.
inward, outward, and it feels so good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And uh Chris, when we would start our session, one time he had me, we were doing some joint by joint rotations.
Yep.
And he had me do something with my thoracic that I had never done before. And I was like, oh, this feels amazing. And so
You're
now
like, what's
I kind
happening
of
here?
I know, I know. I just never done it before. And then, showing me the different moves with the Indian clubs, uh, sorry, forgive me, but I don't remember any of the names
No,
for
no,
the
it's
stuff.
okay.
But,
Don't worry about
we
that.
were these circular motions out like this, and then it was like
It was having you
one
do like
arm,
circles and probably some like I call it like a forward stroke and backstroke,
something
which
like that.
is
Yeah. And then
yeah, which feels
the one
amazing.
where I was turning and then it's like kind of like
You could have
swimming
been
with
doing,
the,
yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah, that
that's
was that.
asynchronous front circle. You could have been
Mm-hmm.
doing that one, but there's different variations of it, and you
Mm-hmm.
add that trunk rotation. Shoulders love it. They
That's what I
really,
was saying. He was
yeah.
having me add that trunk rotation where, we talked about, kettlebells are very linear in fashion. It's straight up and down. You're not getting really any side to side benefits, and just adding these Indian clubs in for a short period of time really fills a gap there.
I was doing for a while, I was before the pandemic, I was working locally with some tennis athletes at like country clubs. So I would get a bunch of these women together because they would cycle in and out of PT all the time. And I'm like, they're walking around with wristband here, wrap here, Motrin and Advil all day. I'm like, ladies, I'm like, let's stop the cycle of going in and out of PT. And so I created like I called it Sturdy Athlete Program,
Oh,
and I would
nice.
do original strength resets like rocking, rolling, head nods, and all that, along with stick mobility drills, which I don't know if you ever.
Hmm.
So I
I
used.
haven't. I was just talking to
Oh,
Chris too. I need to get the stick mobility. I need to get them.
yes. So I was certified by them in 2016, and I
Oh,
started
nice.
co-teaching at their certifications. And during the pandemic, I was teaching some of their Instagram live classes that are all on YouTube. But
Oh, yeah.
it's been a main staple in my training for a decade now. And I included that in the Sturdy Athlete program and along with the Indian clubs to help racket athletes. And back in the times of Yuri and I going out to Ohio for the kettlebell sport competitions, I would bring stick mobility there too.
Oh,
Because,
wow.
all that overhead,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's snatch or long cycle or jerk, you need that fascial
Mm-hmm.
tissue to open. And that's also a great tool that complements circular training. So sometimes in my workshops, if I'm able to, I travel with stick mobility sticks and I
Mm-hmm.
use them in the beginning of my Indian club or mace workshop just to kind of get
Nice.
everybody to open up so that they could kind of tap into this stuff a little bit sooner or just feel the difference
Mm-hmm.
in the tool.
So I think I'm convinced now. I'm definitely going to go ahead and pick them up. And when I do, can I reach out to you for some
Yeah, of course
training?
you can.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yes. Just we'll FaceTime and I'll show you a bunch of stuff, or we'll go on a Zoom. And
Yeah.
it helps me tremendously when I'm doing a sport set. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but like just with consecutive overhead, like I said, that high volume is challenging for me. I just love it for my T-spine and my lateral lines,
Mm-hmm.
all that. Oh, it feels amazing. And then I feel like I recover faster from my long sets or heavier sets.
Yeah, I mean, just after the AAKO this year, I jumped right back into biathlon training for the IKFF Worlds. And after the first two sessions, I try to do a proper warm up and a
Yeah.
proper cool down, and I try to get a little extra stretching in. But just all that overhead work, I sleep like this, and then one morning I woke up and my trap was just like so sore for like 4 days.
Oh, it's the
I'm
worst.
just now getting the turning back in my neck.
I've definitely been there. That's why I love that. I don't know if you have them, the mobility balls. Have you ever
Nope.
heard of them? Okay,
Mm-mm.
so game changer for the upper trap. And so they have, I'll send you the link later, mobility ball.
Okay.
And it's like being on the ground, like rolling on a lacrosse ball, and you're like trying to find that spot, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
it sticks to the ground and it's like firm rubber. So you could put it right on that trigger point and not worry about like the ball rolling. You could
Okay.
also leverage it like the wall. And I
Mm-hmm.
have like the orange one and the blue one. I forget which one is firmer, but I have one that's like super firm and one that's like the medium. And I've definitely used that, from traveling and training and stuff, and just kind of put it right in the traps, right behind the shoulder blade, and work it out. And it's better
Oh, I'm
than
gonna have to.
roll. Sometimes on
Hmm.
the.
I'm gonna have to look into that. Is there any mobility exercises that you're doing that doesn't involve clubs, maces, or anything like that?
I do a lot of original strength resets. So I don't know.
Hmm.
So Original Strength is a company, and they also own their Original Strength Institute in Fuquay Varina, North Carolina.
Hmm.
That's where I did my workshop a couple weeks ago. I have been affiliated with Original Strength since 2016, and a few years ago, I created my own club course, and it's through the lens of their principles.
Hmm.
But their baseline is kind of their mission is to kind of help people move better for the long run, and
Hmm.
it is utilizing the system of how we developed as babies. So,
Hmm.
diaphragmatic breathing, head control, rolling, rocking, crawling,
Hmm.
and it's a lot of involvement of, what's the word I'm looking for? Contralateral, bilateral movement, that
Hmm.
mimics our gait and everything like that. And they have a series of exercises that you could use to keep your body like mobile, and you could just do it right on the ground and you don't need any equipment. And they have a phenomenal YouTube channel that Tim
Hmm.
Anderson, so there's a by Tim, he films a lot of it himself. So Original Strength YouTube channel. They do have two Instagram pages, one Original Strength and then OSI. And Danny Almeida is co-owner with Tim. And I highly recommend checking them out. It's
I
very
will.
easy to digest educational material, and it just is practical stuff that makes sense that helps you move.
Hmm.
All you need is a mat or a
Yep.
space on the floor. Like my training mat is only 6 by 8 feet, and I get a lot done
Hmm.
in this little space. But it's a great way to, there's a lot of articulations, rocking for, mobilizing your wrists. I actually
Hmm.
use a lot of the original strength resets in my workshops as part of our warm up prior to picking up
Oh.
Indian club and or mace. And
Hmm.
I've done a couple of kettlebell clinics that I've taught, and I use the original strength resets as a warm up prior to the people picking up their kettlebell.
Nice. Yeah. Original strength and
Yep.
OSI. I'm gonna have to look into that as well.
I'll send you their stuff too. Yeah.
Okay.
But Tim's
Awesome.
awesome. And so is Danny. They're salt of the earth. They're really good people.
Hmm. Yeah. So how are you incorporating? So are you training bells right now?
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
how are you incorporating your maces and your clubs? Are you doing them as a warm up? Or are you doing them as a separate modality? Is it all blended into one routine?
So I do a blend. Right now, obviously, I'm not currently in a kettlebell sport training program. So my
Hmm.
baseline of my foundation is either like I keep a exercise log, so I kind of program for myself, and
Hmm.
I'll have days in the gym where I'm doing heavier lifts with a barbell with lower volume, and there'll be some kettlebell sprinkled in there.
Hmm.
And I pretty much touch a kettlebell in some capacity every single day. And,
Hmm.
whether it'll be accessory work like an arm bar or,
Hmm.
something or windmill, like as part of like kind of recovery or priming. And
Hmm.
I will do, these days because I'm working. My son's school pickup is at 2:10, and I
Hmm.
start training clients at 5:30 in the morning. So my workouts sometimes are split into a 30-minute, 20-minute block when I can get it in. I'm sure you know what that's like too.
Hmm. Oh,
And then
absolutely.
an afternoon workout. So sometimes I'll just plan like in a 20-minute or 30-minute like EMOM or AMRAP uh,
Hmm.
and do that. And the as far as like the circular training tools, a few days a week I'm swinging clubs, and sometimes it's just to hollow out a pattern, like learning a skill. and it's
Hmm.
not really focused on any time or, like fitness goal per se. And then there's other times where I'll pair it in with like my sandbags and my kettlebells to get some midline crossing, and it'll be more of a strength workout. And other days, it's just recovery.
Yeah.
I'm trying to move at least, 5 to 6 days a week, but it's not always intense.
Hmm.
I hope that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Perfect.
It kind of changes a
Oh,
little bit.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting some sort of movement in every day,
Yeah.
and it's a, really the perfect blend of all your modalities, you
Like
know?
after a heavy lifting day, so like a few days ago, I did my deadlifts. I did some bench press at the gym,
Hmm.
and a couple other movements were pull-ups, various pull-ups. So I was going kind of like a heavier, lower volume day. And then the
Hmm.
next day, I just picked up some of my lighter clubs just to kind of flush out. I don't get like, it wasn't like sore, like per se of like severe like lactic acid
Hmm.
buildup. But I feel like the next day, if I pick up some Indian clubs or a mace and I start swinging, I just seem to like flush out my body and I don't get
Hmm.
as fatigued or sore. I just feel recovered. So I like
Nice.
to use a recovery tool.
Yeah. Are you doing any, you mentioned earlier you're rowing and things like that. How often are you throwing in these conditioning tools or these
That's a
longer
great question.
endurance?
So I have one of the hydro rowing machines. We got that
Uh-huh.
during the pandemic, and I freaking love this rower. I love it.
Really?
And we have a Soul Cycle bike in our bedroom. I'm not a big cycling fan. My husband loves it. He goes to Soul
Hmm.
Cycle. He enjoys it. I will get on there and do kind of the Norwegian method of 4x4 4 times. And I'll also do a little bit of sprint training on there of like
Can you
30.
explain that Norwegian method? You've now mentioned it a couple
Yeah,
times and
so
I'm not familiar with it.
they say that it helps to improve your VO2 max.
Okay.
So you would go like 4 minutes at like 80% of like what your capacity, and
Hmm.
then 4 minutes of recovery, and then
Hmm.
again go on for four.
I got
And
you. Yeah.
when I was in my last sports training cycle, I would do that twice a week. And
Wow.
then I would add in some sprints or like a breathe row, which was like, more like zone two and a
Hmm.
longer row on the machine. And right now, so the past 6 months, I've actually been traveling twice a month for the
Wow.
past six freaking months between
Is it
uh,
for work or?
so between it's for some were teaching workshops, some
Hmm.
were taking, like I was just visiting my mentor and taking his course in Canada that my
Hmm.
friend Mark held. And then we had family obligations and vacation. And then my son went to sleepaway camp for the first time ever, as a freshman in high school to a music camp. He's a musician up in Vermont. So we also had to
Nice.
do the drop off weekend, the pickup weekend.
Hmm.
And so I've been doing a lot of travel. And now I don't have any travel for till the end of December. So I'm trying to really get back on track with being more diligent about my
Hmm.
training. So that's why I have my notebook, I have my little post-its in there. And I just try to be very practical for working 6 days a week and managing my son's schedule and having energy,
Hmm.
the husband and the house and the dog. So I
Absolutely.
tend to block out like, and now what I do is I always have my bag in my car with extra
Hmm.
clothing. So if I get a last minute cancellation from one of my clients and they can't make it, I'm going to utilize that time at the gym to get some of my training in. And
Nice.
I'm just trying to kind of make the best of it now and to really kind of get back on track. It's like I've been moving the whole 6 months, but
Hmm.
not in the fashion of where I feel like I want to be back to my consistency, which really helps me to
Yes.
be consistent.
So in the midst of life and
Mhm.
everything that you just said you have going on, how do you flip the switch if a client says they can't make it? How do you flip that switch? Okay, well, within a matter of minutes, well, I'm not going to be training someone. I'm going to get mine in. How do you flip that switch and go from
I put
trainer
my
mode
little
to
earpods
training?
in. I put my earpods and I hear Rage or Tool, and I'm like, it's time.
Nice.
I just go
Nice.
right to my playlist. I'm like, if I don't, all I need is like little bit of like Stinkfist from Tool, and I'm like, let's go.
Hmm. I love
So
tooling.
I have like
Tool is my
yeah,
favorite.
a tool, rage, you name it.
Hmm.
I'm stuck permanently in the 90s, I guess you could say.
I think I
But
am
like,
too.
yeah, I love it. I'm like, this is great because I have a couple of playlists, and if I just put the earpods in and I get my strap out, because it's funny because I wasn't always into kind of like logging my workouts, but it's funny
Hmm.
this past year, especially since realizing what was happening with my heart rate, I became
Hmm.
like more intrigued in the hormonal changes, and I was like, let's see, let me track this stuff. So
Hmm.
I don't always track, but I'm enjoying it because I like kind of seeing like what's happening
Right.
with what
Right.
and it's just helping me to kind of stay consistent because I realize, I try to practice what I preach. I want to give my clients good advice, and I've also got
Hmm.
to take my own advice sometimes too.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean tracking everything because I don't I'm
Right.
like personality where I'm like I don't want to be pigeonholed into something so much that that'll make me go in the opposite direction.
Right. I've kind of gotten into this habit myself too of certain metrics, especially
Hmm.
with clients, we're not really worried about
Yes.
certain metrics.
Yep.
I leave it up to them. Do you want to when you start a program with me, do you want to take body measurements? Do you want to know your weight? Do you want to know all of these things? But I'm a big fan of, let's get a good look at the heart rate at the beginning and then how well you recover. And then after, 6 months, let's relook at those numbers and see how well you're recovering, what your heart rate looks like on certain, interval style trainings.
Yes.
And we don't really worry about the weight and, all that stuff.
I agree with you on that. And that's probably why I started paying attention to the recovery of my heart rate
Hmm.
because after that cardiologist visit, when they're like, green light, you're good to go. But I
Hmm.
got kind of like interested, like, well, how many beats in a minute am I recovering?
Right.
And I gauge that as like an indication of my health at 46, along
Hmm.
with like what my cholesterol says and, all that kind of what my blood
Hmm.
work is saying. And it's been interesting because, like you said, with like a hit workout, because my heart rate does spike so high, if I'm
Hmm.
doing high intensity intervals, I'll be able to know if like I have to kind of start dialing back because
Hmm.
my heart rate will get higher than most. And if I continue to push too hard in a hit workout, it's not necessarily the benefit for me because I'm just going to be
Hmm.
spiking my cortisol and I'm causing too much stress. And I don't want to
Hmm.
have that feeling that I get sometimes after the long sport sets.
Yeah.
It's funny because like last week I was really short on time and I just wrote down I have a couple whiteboards back here that you
Yeah,
can't
I
see.
was I was just pointing at my whiteboard because
Oh, were you? Yeah.
oh
So
yeah.
I'll write it down on my whiteboard, and
Hmm.
I have an awesome sport timer that my husband got me, and I'll just hit that
Nice.
timer, and I'll have my puller on, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to
Hmm.
push these 20 minutes, but I'm also going to be mindful of like how high my heart rate gets, and then I'm going to
Hmm.
also make sure that I'm having a little bit of recovery. I think when I was younger, what I would do is just like do the hard workout, finish, and not like cool down at all. And
Hmm.
now I realize to help prevent the asthma attack and to help prevent like that nervous system feeling that I get like when my heart rate is elevated for so long, I got to just walk around and slowly get my heart rate to go down instead of having
Hmm.
sometimes that steep
Just
drop.
let it drop. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what was happening with kettlebell sport because I would go 10 minutes, put my bells down, and then all of a sudden walk off and then just sit. And I
Yeah.
can't, I need to now, next time I compete, put the bells down and like have my husband or whoever's with me, let's take a little gander
A
and walk
little
around.
stroll. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
so
makes total
that
sense to kind of gradually bring the heart rate down and not just stop completely and just let it do what it's going to
Yeah,
do.
because we're not talking being at like 170, 175. I'm at
Hmm.
196 for 10
Right.
minutes.
You know, that makes so much sense. And I just had this epiphany when I was in
Mhm.
the army and we would do like sprint training or we would run for a certain amount of miles. They would never let us just stop.
Yeah.
Okay, let's walk a few laps, bring your heart rate down nice and slow. So that makes perfect sense.
That's why I'm starting to, I guess it's coming from, just like aging within the industry and going off of like
Hmm.
learning from your own personal experience of like what happens to you. Like
Hmm.
I have never felt stronger though. I have to say, I feel like I feel like I'm just getting started.
Right.
Like I don't understand when people say they want to turn back the clock. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I feel I'm pain free, most importantly.
Yeah.
I feel really strong and my VO2 max is good, better than average. I'll take it.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I just
I
want to
agree. And
keep moving.
I'm loving all the gray hairs coming in.
I think go for the gray. I'm not ready yet.
Yes. I
I
mean,
get my colored.
people say to me all the time, my kids mostly, they're like, "Dad, your
Yeah.
hair's getting so gray." And I'm like, "That's awesome, kid. I mean, that means I'm growing to be wise, you know?"
My son said to me the other day, I was in the kitchen and he's like, Mom, he's like, don't get upset. And I'm like, what? He's like, I think you might be getting too old for what is that? Crop tops. And I'm like, what?
Oh no, he didn't say
No.
that.
I'm like, I'm the cool mom. I'm like, I pull in like blasting Rage Against the Machine. I've got chalk on
Right,
me. I'm like, come
right.
on, I'm tapping out. Like,
Hell yeah.
not old enough for crop tops. What? But he was
Yeah,
kidding.
of
Yeah.
course.
And my
So,
son
uh,
now is he'll take pictures of like if I like I'll be like looking down and he'll from across the room he'll take a screenshot of me and be like, look at your chins.
oh my
Soon to be
goodness.
16-year-old. But it's just
Rude.
funny games. He's just being, he's
Hmm.
just kidding. He's a good kid.
Rude.
Rude. I'm
Um,
sorry, I cut you off.
oh no, no, that's okay. I love these like free. This is why I love this. It's like a free flow
Isn't it fun?
conversation, and
Yeah.
I had some questions, and I haven't even had to look at anything to kind of guide
Yeah.
the conversation. It's awesome. I was gonna talk about my last interval training I did on the bike, where I did 2 minute intervals with 2 minute
Yep.
rests. So I guess it's very similar to that
I've been doing
Norwegian.
that too. So like in addition to doing like the 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off in the for
Hmm.
the region, I'll do what you're doing too, is also like two on, two off. And
Hmm.
I'll either do that with the rower or with the bike. And recently, I'm not a big runner. I'm really not, but I went to REI and I got a couple of pairs of topos for
Hmm.
like I kind of do a little sprinting on the treadmill, but within reason.
Yes.
And so I just feel like that's one thing at this age that I want to improve on is I'm doing more plyometrics
Oh,
and
okay.
a little bit more sprinting because I
Hmm.
just like with my I just it's hard to describe but like I feel like I'm very dense. The gravity likes
Hmm.
to pull me down to the ground.
Hmm.
I'm not light on my feet. When I run, I'm like my legs feel like I'm carrying these boulders. Like I'm like, ugh.
Hmm.
Like last year, I did the turkey trot with a couple of my clients, and they're both gazelles that do like ultra marathons. And I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
I go, ooh. But I did the
You could
five
just
miles and it was
you
great.
could feel the earth vibrate whenever you hit the
Yes,
ground.
yes. I'm just like,
Very,
what?
I'm very heavy footed too when I run.
But I also, it's interesting. Does this happen to you? Like, I feel like every sport cycle, now granted, I've only done 8 competitions, so I'm by no means
Hmm.
am I well versed in kettlebell sport. But every training cycle, I feel that like my body just gets denser. I feel like it could be like the cooling
Hmm.
hand that just like breaks through the brick wall. And
Yes.
it's bizarre. And I'll train with somebody like Lorna or whoever, and their dimensions don't seem to change. They're like the
Hmm.
exact same from the start to the finish. And I just
Yep.
get like a brick house, which is
Yes.
fun. I love genetics. I think genetics is fascinating. But I have this weakness where I'm not very bouncy. I don't think I have a
Hmm.
lot of like a fast twitch fibers. So
Right.
now I want to start like challenging myself. And my coworkers, like Michael and Chris, do a lot of plyos. So we'll get together, and if we both have like a few minutes in between clients, or both of us have a last minute cancellation or a half hour that overlap, we'll do them
Hmm.
together. And I really enjoy it because it's my weakness. I want to work on
Hmm.
stuff like that.
And I've been seeing lately a lot of studies with
Hmm.
middle-aged women,
Yes.
like adding
Yep.
in plyo to, you know, redevelop bone density and,
Mhm.
strength and longevity.
Yes. Well, I always say, and I've been saying this my entire career, is like what you do in this decade prepares you for the decade to come.
Hmm.
And at 46, I want to be doing all of this that's behind me at 56, which is still very
Hmm.
young. We all know that there could be a big difference between a healthy 46 and 56-year-old versus an
Hmm.
unhealthy 46 and 56-year-old, though in society we still consider them young. Like I want to make sure that I'm kind of open to filling in some of the gaps that are
Hmm.
in my programming. That's like what we to go circle around to what we talked about in the beginning, exploring the gray areas or having like a really
Yes.
open-minded approach to having a more holistic personal practice. And then when you're
Hmm.
well versed in that, so bring that to your clientele and you're working with your clients and you're like, what you do now is going to prepare you for the next decade.
Hmm. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Uh,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, can I jump back to the heart rate stuff real
Yeah, of
quick?
course. Yep.
So my last interval training that I did on the bike, so I did
Hmm.
2 on 2 off times 5, where not only did I started at a very moderate wattage, like maybe
Yep.
200. And then by the fifth round, I'm in the 300 wattage range, and I held that for 2 minutes. And at the end, my heart rate was 180. And then I timed myself. I also used the polar. So I timed myself
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
how long it took me to get down to 100 beats per minute, right? And I have it written right there, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Uh, it took for my heart rate to drop from 180 back to 100. Do you know of any studies on this or any science-backed metrics that will say what's good, what needs work? Do you know of anything?
So I could go based on what the cardiologist and I talked about. So if you're
Hmm.
doing strenuous exercise or you're in that cardio capacity where you're kind of working at your higher end, it will take longer for your heart rate to drop down back to a
Hmm.
normal range. It's going to stay elevated for longer. When we were talking about, like my regular strength training per se, you're going to have a quicker drop in recovery because you're not
Hmm.
at that higher capacity.
Hmm.
So I think it depends on the activity that you're doing
Hmm.
and if it's anaerobic or aerobic.
Right. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So for myself, like when I do the sprint intervals that I did today, I was doing 10 minutes of like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And after
Hmm.
5 rounds, I had a 2-minute recovery. Then I did the
Hmm.
other five. My heart rate stayed elevated for a few minutes after. So even
Okay.
though it was coming down, I was at like 130, and then it probably took me maybe around the same time, like 3 or 4 minutes to get back down to 100, at
Hmm.
least elevated. But when I do my strength training, like if I'm doing some hardstyle kettlebells and like do an EMOM, and then like
Hmm.
my workout is done, I'll come drop very fast.
Right. Yeah,
So that's that.
I was wondering if that was like good. 4 minutes, 30 seconds to drop 80, beats per minute.
I would think so because
I mean,
like,
I
and
felt
then
great.
I would because I yeah, I dove down the rabbit hole like after my cardiologist visit, and it
Hmm.
was saying that I came across a few articles and said that like but it depends on the activity. If you could recover 30 to 50 beats, then you're above average. I think average was 25 beats in a minute.
Hmm.
And then below that, you were like, considered like unhealthy. And elite
Right.
athletes would recover 50 plus in a
Hmm.
minute. But it
Nice.
depends again, like what
Right.
activity you're doing and how
Yeah,
long.
I've even measured
Yeah.
so that those intervals were on the bike, but a classic kettlebell sport workout would be 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off times 5, hit that 10-minute
Correct.
volume. And let's just say, you could do that for long cycle or jerk. For me, it
Yep.
was jerk. And I took those measurements too, and seeing, from the first round what my heart rate got up to, and then what I could get it down to prior to the next interval. And then,
I think as your sets went on, you
mhm,
probably were at a higher heart rate faster.
absolutely. And I was going to
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
And at each interval, the heart rate went higher, and it took a little longer. It didn't quite drop as much, as the first interval. And then that last interval was just like you're maxed out like 190, and then,
Yeah.
it takes a few minutes for it to
Do
come
you
down.
hit 190 yourself with jerks and stuff?
I have hit like 189.
Isn't that interesting? Because
Hmm.
it was so funny because like at that appointment, the cardiologist was like, do not pay attention to the formula. He's like, that formula is extremely inaccurate. And I was like, I'm
Hmm.
like, geez, like when you start off in the fitness industry, there are everything. And then if you go to like a lot of the franchises like Orange Theory or BFT
Hmm.
or F45 where they'll have like the heart rate on the screen and people wearing their heart rate monitors. It's really a lot of that is inaccurate trying to tell people like what zone to stay in
Oh
because
yeah.
your
Hmm.
zone is completely individualized. And that's what I
Yes.
like really realized. Most of my clients don't track their heart rate during our training session. I have a couple that like, will wear their monitor so they could get like information later, but they're not really checking it.
Hmm.
Some will use like their Apple Watch just to kind of like log their fitness. Um, but he said to go by perceived exertion
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
don't worry about that formula. He's like, your heart size makes a massive difference. Whether a
Yes.
woman's heart is smaller than a man's heart, hormones make a difference. Genetics is the
Hmm.
main key component of, I guess, your heart rate max, which I did not know. And then
Hmm.
obviously conditioning, but conditioning does not necessarily improve your heart rate max.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, I always kind of felt like, how you can Google,
Hmm.
what should my zone two be for my body weight, my age? And like for me, I'm 38, it says zone two should be at like 135 to one, whatever. I feel like it's really low because they also talk about things like the talk test and,
Yes.
things like that. And I just feel like
I don't know
you
about that
know,
talk test because like I'll be at that Jeff was like, you just put your bells down and you're at 198 and you're having a conversation. So it's like,
right. So I mean, maybe there's something there. I don't know.
I'm not sure. But yeah, the talk test, like with cardio, makes sense though,
Mm,
I think.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just always kind of felt like that might be wrong because, I feel like maybe a 140 to 150 is a great zone two for me.
Hmm.
I like to get my heart rate to like 145 to 155 and just see how long I could sustain,
That's like, it's interesting because you're like, I don't really, I guess when I'm going and doing like zone two, I guess you would be considered it, but
Mhm.
I'm always in like zone three or four according to my
Yeah,
pull. Like my puller
exactly.
adjusted to my personal heart rate.
Hmm.
Like, so it's like, if you look at my logs, it's like all in the red. And,
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, when you first get the Polar and you're on the app, it asks you your A's, asks you all these
yeah,
metrics, right? And then
yep.
that's how it determines what your zone two and three and four is.
The cardiologist said that your max heart rate on the formula could be off by up to 40 beats.
Jesus.
Up to, depending.
Yeah.
So technically my max heart rate, which I've never pushed it to the max, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
could be over 200 at 46 years old.
Wow.
And normally that's recommended for, like teenagers have that, because
Yes.
I'm
Hmm.
easily hitting, and I'm telling the doctor, like, I don't want to be up this high, but
Right,
there's nothing I
right.
can do about it. But that's why it's like, I just feel like if I don't genetically think that I'm really built for endurance sports because of
Hmm.
what happens with my heart rate, but I just need to train smart. I also need to make sure that I'm really hydrated and
Yes.
rested, because that'll make a big difference with how your heart um responds. Because I know that like I've traveled, been out, and then next day like try to lift and I'm just, I could torch myself. I have to really make sure that I am hydrated.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Um, yeah. Kelly, this was awesome.
I'm
Thank you
so
so much
glad
for
we had a chance to catch up.
yes. So if if someone watched this and they wanted to maybe reach out to you for training, I know you have a large following on Instagram. Do you have a website or
I do.
where
I
people
have
can
to say,
contact you?
I'm not the most tech savvy individual, but I have a
Hmm.
website, Kelly at kmoves.com. And or you could even find it just as kellymanzone.com.
Hmm.
And they can reach out by email. So did I just say that, Kelly at kmoves.com? Yeah, that's my email. And on Instagram, I'm KelsBells88, and
Hmm.
I live in Fairfield, Connecticut, but I work in Westport, Connecticut. I do have online clients and in homes, and then I train people in person, and then I also
Hmm.
travel around the country teaching my workshops. And
Awesome.
people could reach out if they have any questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be reaching out once I get the stick mobility. Those
Oh,
sticks.
yes. So how tall are you? Because you would either
6 foot.
you need the 7 foot sticks.
Okay.
The
So
six the 6 foot
so
would be too.
don't get the 3 pack or whatever they sell.
Yeah, you could do the bundle, but you would want 2 7s with 1 6 foot versus getting
Okay.
the 6 foot sticks with that come with the 5 footer because you're
Okay.
tall. But like you
Okay.
want to, like with the 7 footer, you could be able to do bow and arrow. Like if you're 5'11" and under,
Mhm.
the 6 foot stick could work, and you could kind of top your hand on top and do
Mhm.
the bow and arrows. But because you're 6 foot, you're going to want to really be able to reach that top arm up to really maximize. Plus, like, oh God, the snake reach is such a good stretch. You're going to
Oh, I
love
can't
that
wait.
one.
I
Yeah.
cannot wait.
Snake reach for anybody that's an overhead athlete, that one is money. It's such a good
Nice.
stretch.
Well,
But yeah,
as
you can
soon
just,
as we get off of here, and
yeah.
I'm gonna order them right now. And then when
I
they
think
come
I don't
in,
know if,
I'll
like
reach out.
I have a discount code that actually like was associated with the kettlebell sport. So it should be GS Planet, but I don't know if that is still even active, my
Okay.
discount code.
I'll
I'm not
check it
sure. I
out.
think it's
GS.
like all lowercase. So like,
Okay.
standing for I always say it wrong. Gearvy Sport.
Gearvik.
Gearvy
Oh,
Sport.
Gearvy Sport.
Gearvy.
GS.
I have a shirt that someone was like, what does that say? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna butcher it. Like
Here we go.
GS. No, but the code is GS Planet. Yeah.
GS Planet. All right. I'll let you know if it works. As soon as I get off here, I'm gonna
Yeah, it might
jump on
not.
there and
I'm
get
not
them.
sure. It's been a minute. Yeah, but
Okay.
thank you for everything. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. I really appreciate you
I just
coming and doing this with me. It was a fun time. And I can't wait to see you in
anytime.
Boston.
Yes. So if I'm not in Spain and I'm not in North Carolina, I will definitely be there.
Sounds good. All right, Kelly. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.